Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Intuitive Creator Spotlight. Today, I have here with me the beautiful Lacy Watson. She is a phenomenal person. She was born in a world of challenges and adversities. She went through a lot of transformation, and her story is a testament to the power of perseverance and self-discovery. She continues to go through life with a lot of courage, and she's a brave, beautiful soul. I'm so grateful that she is here today with us. She went from overcoming addiction and loss to finding her calling, and now she works in digital design and naturopathic medicine. Hi, Lacy. I'm so happy to have you here today with us.
Hi, Stella. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
It is a pleasure to connect with you here. And, when we first connected, you told me that you grew up in Wyoming, US, and I was like, wow, what were the chances? Because that is a place that I visited many years ago, and I spent an entire summer in Yellowstone National Park. So I loved when I heard that your childhood was there. But I know that in your childhood, you've been through a lot. So can you, if you were to go back to your childhood and remember something like a moment, a memory that you took with you, and you think of that memory as a very important turning point in your life, what that moment would be for you today?
When my grandmother went to prison when I was 10, my grandmother went to prison, and in the same summer, my mom got remarried, and then I went to visit my dad for the first time, all in the same breath. Yeah.
Wow, that is quite a lot. So how old were you?
I was 10 years old.
10 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So wow, that's a lot for a child, right? To take in and absorb the information and understand what is this new reality now, from
Mhm.
now on. Who did you go to? Who did you talk to?
I had funny enough, one of my best friends, my friend Shannon, her father was our school counselor. And so I would go and see him after my grandmother went to prison, and he was a very safe place for me. And his name was Mr. Bill.
Wow.
Uh,
That's so beautiful, isn't it? Because you then create an image of what a safe place feels like for you. And if you
yes.
were to describe what a safe place feels like for you today, how would you describe that?
Strong and stoic, um, and listens well and um consistent. I would say consistent. Consistency is important, and just very mindful. Hmm.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that you had a very close connection to your grandmother. And so
Hmm.
when she went to prison, that must have been a very difficult moment for you. Did
Hmm.
that connection change between both of you as she had to go through her challenges and then you had to deal with your own?
No, no, in fact, I actually have a box that I kept from my childhood that I opened after she died in November, that was letters from her. And I'm writing a book called Letters from My Grammy. They're a bunch of letters from the time from when I was 10 years old until I was a sophomore that she wrote me. And I went back to read them, and it was just really cool to read that story unfold. And she shared with me her hopes and dreams, and things that she wanted to do when she got out. And she was just always there for me, no matter if she was not physically there. She was always there.
Wow. She clearly had you in her thoughts and wrote so many letters to you. This is so beautiful that you kept those letters. So are you transforming all of that treasure, right? The
Hmm.
combination of letters into a memoir or a book, or is it
Yeah.
close to launching? Are you close to launching the book, or is it still?
I'm still writing it. I actually just started it when she died. And so my hope is to get it done by the end of the summer. And so I'm going to start releasing some videos, reading the letters. That's one of the things I'm going to be doing on TikTok. And I'm going to transcribe them into the book. But I'm writing the story as the hero's journey. And the unlikely hero in my story is actually my grandpa.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and it's telling the story of our family who has an incredible story. The visual family has just got an incredible story. My great grandmother, Lucy, she had my grandfather and when she was young, and she actually had 19 children. And
Whoa.
so yeah, and so my grandfather married my grandmother, and then when my uncle, my youngest uncle was in ninth grade, they divorced. And so my family story is pretty incredible. And so the whole Vigil family story will be in that book.
Wow, this is incredible. So, of course, this video is going to be on YouTube. And maybe if somebody is watching this video
Yeah.
when the book is out there, please check out the description of this video to connect with Lacy and see how incredible she is and what other projects she is working on. So, I know, Lacy, that you're also a very creative person. So, now you're working on this book. And I also know that you have your own agency as well,
Mhm.
and do some other things too. Um, how would you say your creativity developed since you were a child to
Hmm.
now, your present moment?
Oh gosh. I started out, I was always very creative, always very inquisitive. I was a quiet child. Um, but I loved taking pictures. I loved to draw. I loved to color. And then when I was in high school, I started working with digital media, back when, because I kind of grew up with computers. Like I grew as computers grew. I was around before Google. I'm almost 40 years old. And so when they came out with Word documents, I used to combine images and quotes from the internet that I would find, and I would print them out. And I actually had my first car had I would print these memes, I guess, before memes were even a thing. And I would take beautiful images, beautiful quotes, and do word art and put them. My whole car was filled. The whole roof of the car was completely covered with these things. And so I was always making collages and kind of combining things, which is funny now because now I make landing pages and things of that nature. And it's interesting to see that setup because I was always making collages and I was always combining quotes, beautiful quotes and lyrics with beautiful pictures I would find or draw or make online. And so now
Wow.
I'm doing kind of the same thing.
Will your book have images or will it be mainly text?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, it will have pictures of my grandma, it will have pictures of the family, pictures of the drawings I received from her from prison, that sort of thing. Yeah.
wow, this is really inspiring. And then I know that you're very creative and you work with the visual aspect of things, especially
Yeah.
when you help somebody in business. But I also know that you're passionate about the naturopath um,
Naturopathic
area.
medicine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
How do
Yes.
you like? How did you come across both, and how did
Oh,
you decide to combine both?
oh gosh. So I was working in fast food and I decided to go to college when I was 22 years old, and I found a work study job through my college, and it was at a naturopathic clinic, and I had no idea what that was at the time. But I came to learn that it was integrative medicine. It was a combination of natural medicine and Western medicine combined into one at this particular clinic, and it was a primary care clinic. So I worked there for 8 years, and I became a certified health coach. I just loved it. I just loved it. And I had found out I had celiac disease. So I eliminated gluten from my diet. I changed my diet. I changed my life. And so I became a health coach to help other people do the same. And the progression of digital media, I just always played with digital media. It was something I really enjoyed doing. And when my brother died, I ended up quitting that clinic and I went to go work at another clinic, and wanted to learn, she wanted to be an online, um, she wanted to go online and she wanted to provide courses online. And so I learned how to make my first course with Dr. Allegra Hart. And from there, I ended up working with another naturopath who wanted to do the same thing. And I ended up creating courses for her, with her, and we ended up trying to do the online thing. And back in August of last year, one of my friends wanted to have a statewide swap meet, and she needed some help, and she needed help with digital marketing, and she knew that I was really good on Facebook. I was really good with email lists and landing pages and these things, and someone else came to me asking me to do something similar. And so I decided, well, why don't I start a business so that this is legit and I can have some side income, because I needed some side income. And I started doing that, and my husband started helping me. And, fast forward to, I think it was March of this year, we had an instance where, we were just struggling financially. And so I made a decision to go full time in the business. And my husband was already full time in the business, because we were making money with the business, but it was truncated to my availability, because I'm kind of the one that does a lot of the framework, and he does the images and copywriting and stuff. And so I decided to quit my job at the clinic that I loved. I loved the clinic I was working at, and I'm a certified medical assistant. I'm a certified health coach. And I worked as an office manager, medical assistant, health coach for a very long time, helping naturopathic physicians to grow their own businesses, and go online and helping their clients. But I just needed to do something for me and my family. So I decided to go full time into doing that. And so I combined the two, with self-development services and wellness services. And I'm actually in the process now of developing my business so that it can grow and make more sense and not be split, because I want to be able to provide business owners with business building tools and services, but also with self-development and wellness tools. Because if you are sick, your business is not going to be well either. And so I'm working right now with a couple coaches to create that message and create that vehicle, so to speak.
Mm. First of all, congratulations for taking that step of like, okay, enough is enough. I'm stepping full time into business, because it is a big thing to do, right? You just have
Yes.
to close the doors to your previous chapter without knowing what is going to happen in your next chapter. So you just go
Yes.
into it with a lot of hope, of course, but determination and a lot of hard work as well. I know that you work so much and you help so many people. And then to have this vision, I absolutely loved how you describe your vision of how important it is to have a balance, as a business owner as well. Um, if you think about all the people that are coming into your space,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs who need help, what would you say is something that they struggle with the most when it comes to when it comes to this balance, right? Life, business. What would you say is the biggest challenge for them?
Uh, I would say self-worth is a big deal, and struggling with, they take everything on. They're kind of biting off more than they can chew. And so what I like to do is relieve a little bit of that pressure and do what I love to do while helping them to do what they love. I've had a few people just in the last day come to me saying, I'm so overwhelmed with this tech stuff and I'm so stressed out. I need to relieve the pressure. And so there's a lot of pressure going on. And so what I like to do is I like to relieve that pressure for them, and while also giving them tools to help with that self-development so they can hold more.
Wow, that's such a beautiful gift to every entrepreneur who has a lot on their plate and then they're like, okay, I need some help. It's really a beautiful thing that you're doing. But I know that you, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you have been through a lot in your life and you found the strength, the courage to go through those things. I also know that you had to go through addictions and
Mhm.
you connected with people who were going through the same kind of experiences. Um, what kind of lessons would you say you have learned at a soul level from those experiences?
Hmm. The first thing that comes to mind is that nothing is personal
Mm,
and nothing is permanent. Everything is impermanent. We're always changing. Seasons are continuously changing. And if we take things personally that happen around us or to us, we can't move forward because it paralyzes us. And so there's a lot of letting go that needs to happen, a lot of release that needs to happen, relinquishing control over things because we cannot control everything. And so if we just recognize that we are not in control and that God is in control, and we just surrender to that and we listen, then we can move forward with what our divine purpose is, right?
mm,
So just
wow.
release. Yeah.
So it was a choice for you at some point to just say, okay, I'm just dropping the weight and I'm releasing and allowing
Yes.
myself to follow my own path. Would you say this is like what
A-
happened? Mm,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't carry the world. I can't carry other people's stuff. Um, I can only be in control of my choices and the decisions I make. and
mm,
and so but also sometimes those choices have outcomes that I can't control, and so relinquishing the control is a big deal, and just surrendering to God and what the higher purpose is.
mm. How would you say your circles of friends, family, and people who are close to you changed as you went from those times of like having to go through addiction to then changing to I want to
Mm.
embrace my life and I want to do
Mm.
everything differently?
Yeah, some people fell away, and some people, unfriended me. Other people, didn't want to have anything to do with me. Other people embraced me and embraced that change in me, and they also made changes in their life, and that ripple effect. I could see the ripple effect, and I could see the ripple effect generationally with my own stepdaughter, and I could
Mhm.
see that within my own family, that people around me are making more conscious choices and showing up in a better light. um you have to ask yourself, how do I want to show up in the world? And so that's something that I'm continuously hammering home, is how do you want to show up in the world? And some people don't want to show up, and so those people that don't want to show up and they don't want to take a look at their own dysfunction have kept me at an arm's length. And some people have been very close friends of mine and family members. I have family members that don't like to engage with me because of the changes I've made.
Ooh,
Mhm.
interesting. How
Yeah.
did you choose to respond to somebody saying, "Oh, I have nothing to talk to you about now"? How did you
Mm.
choose to go
With
through that?
love.
With
With
love.
love. With
Oh,
love. I just love them anyways, and tell them I love them and I honor them and I'm thinking of them. I have a friend that I'm thinking of right now that she's kept me at an arm's distance. She was one of my best friends, and she's kept me at an arm's length, and because she's got her own stuff, and I just tell her very often that I love her and that I'm here if she ever wants to hang out.
wow. I think this is the most healing energy we can share, love.
Mm.
Because when
Yes.
we try to fight, and we talked about this just before we started this video, when we want to respond with any like negativity and resistance, it just doesn't work. It doesn't contribute to the healing. And of course, you can't always be at the same in the same phase or cycle of life with the other
Mm.
person, so they may not be ready to open up, or we in certain situations may not be ready. And so it is important to go through life with such love and grace, and it's clear that this is what you chose to embrace. I know, Lacey, that you have also have been through grief
Mm.
because a member of your family passed away. It was your brother, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother took his own life. Yeah.
How did that impact you or your life?
Um, it changed my life forever. It changed me forever. You always think that people will be there, and especially your younger siblings, you think they're gonna outlive you. Um, but it made me really aware of other people's struggle, and it made me realize that the way that people present isn't always as it is in their head. And it also made me realize that there's, in the case of suicide, there's such thing as momentary lapse of reason. And oftentimes people that take their life because they're experiencing a momentary lapse of reason, and they cannot, um, they just can't wrap their mind around what's going on around them. And so they make a decision that's permanent. And it really affected my family very deeply, affected my father very deeply. Um, it affected his twin very deeply, and it affected me very deeply. And I will never be the same, for sure, for sure.
And it's also interesting how at a soul level, when we think about these situations, we tune into the soul contracts that we have with our family members, and it's it's something that everybody in the family then has to learn certain things or go through certain experiences. And
Mhm,
you mentioned that it affected many people in your family. I mean, everyone, of course, because you're
mhm.
connected. But I can imagine that through the power of love, it maybe got you closer to each other. Did that happen or no?
It did with my father and I, but and maybe my brother too, but there's a lot of my father had, so we don't have the same mother. My father had me from one mother, and then two other, my brother, my sister from another, and then the twins from another. And so there's already a lot of fracturing going on there. And in some cases, I would say that it made it harder for us to connect, because when we get together, I don't even think we've all been together since he died, to be honest. It brings up these old feelings. And if someone isn't doing their work, and they're not, working through the pain and the grief and the sadness, and they're avoiding it, which is what the younger siblings do, it tends to repel each other from one another. And so we don't actually, I don't get to see my youngest brother as often as I would like, because I think that him uh coming into the family is too painful for him.
Mm.
Hmm.
Wow.
I mean, we do connect sometimes.
Mhm.
And he's got his own little path that he's walking, but I think that getting in the same place as like me and my dad and my sister is painful for him. And so I don't think that we connect as often as we should, for sure.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, like you mentioned earlier, there are things that you just can't control, and it's best to not even like attempt to control, because in this situation, everybody's on their own journey of healing and grief. And I love that you are honoring that, and you're aware that it's just the things as they are now, because different people are different on their own journey. And Lacey, when I read your story, I had chills all over my body, because I was like, how did you go through so much and kept your beautiful positive energy through everything? But I want to ask you, if you were to think about what your energy brings into the world, if you think about your situations, people, your clients, your friends, situations when you're very happy interacting with the world, what would you say your energy is bringing into the world?
I would try to, I would think that it's lightheartedness and love. I try to, um, radiate love as much. I don't even try. I just feel like there's a part of me that just is, and helping people to be their best selves. I wasn't always there. I haven't always been like this though. there was a time where I was pretty dark and struggling myself. So I'd say grace is the number one thing. If you had to, put it into one word, it would be grace for sure.
I love that. It's really, really inspiring, because we all are here to help each other, to share our energy with each other. And sometimes I just want to ask my beautiful guests these
Yeah.
kind of questions because it's beautiful, to just see and hear and feel and experience other people's energies because we are here to help each other grow and to walk each other home, as Ramdas says.
Yes.
And it's so
Yes.
beautiful because that's when you no longer compete with anyone, you don't compare yourself with anyone, you understand that you're on your journey while dancing with other people, right? Through
Yes.
life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the walking each other home quote. I love that. It's something that I use quite often. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Oh,
and and
I
through my
know.
own pain, I've had to learn grace, right? And so just giving people grace and space.
Mm, so beautiful. And I know that you said you combine visuals with quotes and all of these beautiful visual things that you're doing. If you were to think of a favorite quote or more, what would you share with us? Which one just comes to your mind now?
Anything from the book The Warrior of the Light from Paulo Coelho.
Mm,
That's the first thing that comes to my mind is that book, is the Paulo Coelho Warrior of the Light. Um, yeah.
that's beautiful. Where do you go for inspiration, Lacey? Where when you need it?
I read a lot. So I read a lot of I like Paulo Coelho, like I just said, I like to read that. I also I do listen to a lot of online I like Les Brown. I would say that Les Brown or Tony Robbins. Les Brown really got me through a lot of my grief, and I would listen to him over and over and over again. Um, One quote that's coming up right away from Les Brown is, "Don't stay parked. You don't want to stay parked in the grief. You don't want to stay parked in the grief of your life. You don't, you're like a car, you want to keep driving. You don't want to park." And so Les Brown really got me through some deep, deep grief. When you're knocked down, look up because you can get up. That really got me through it. After my brother died, I listened to Les Brown and Tony Robbins. Um, every day in the morning. I would wake up and I would just put him on every single day. And I really, to this day, I still listen to him quite a bit. And Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is another one that I like to listen to quite a bit.
And I know that you also said you use sometimes lyrics to combine with
Mhm.
visuals. Have you ever created your own?
A long time ago, I used to write poetry when I was a teenager, but I don't anymore. I had a big poetry book I used to carry with me. And I actually had a few published when I was a teenager and I was a meth addict when I was a teenager. And that's one way that I would get through my pain, absolutely. And my dad is a songwriter. And
Oh,
so
wow.
he plays the acoustic guitar 12 string and he writes songs. And so I yeah, I did like to write poems a long time ago. Maybe I should start again, huh?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
this is a reminder.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, and you mentioned your father, and I know that there was in your life a key moment when your father literally helped you shift or change your reality.
Yeah.
You were at your wedding and he came to you. Would you like to share with us um,
Yeah.
what that changed in you and in your life, that moment?
Yeah. So I was 20 years old and I had just gotten off probation for being a drug dealer. And I was getting married to my previous drug dealer, and everyone in my wedding party was high on meth except for me. It was very embarrassing. And my father came from Washington to go to my wedding, and he noticed that I was really struggling still. And he asked me if I wanted to move to Washington, but I would have to move the next day because he was going home. And I decided to say yes. And we packed up the trailer and we moved the next day after my first wedding. And I moved from Wyoming to Washington and left everything that I ever loved behind. And I'll never forget my grandma waving goodbye. It's very sad. As I drove away. And it's a bittersweet. It's bittersweet because I've been out here now for 17 years and I really miss my family in Wyoming because my whole family, my dad is back in Wyoming now too. And so
Mm.
my whole family is lives in Wyoming except for my brother and my sister, and my other brother now lives in Alabama, but he lived in Israel for 6 years. Um and I will never forget that moment that my father threw me a lifeline, and I don't know where I would be if I would have stayed there because I was really knee deep into addiction, and I don't know that I would have gotten out of it in the manner that I did. And I know for certain I would have never known what naturopathic medicine was because that didn't exist in Wyoming. It does now, but at the time it wasn't something that was very popular. Out here, they have a naturopathic um, college at a university. And so it's very prominent here. Bastyr University, very prominent, something that's very, they're very common around here. And so if it wasn't for him throwing me that lifeline, I have no idea where I would be now.
But also it wasn't like he didn't push you from what you're sharing. He asked you a
Mm-mm.
question and then
Mm-hmm.
it came from you. Clearly it was like your soul was waiting for that question to be asked.
Yes, yes, absolutely, 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 absolutely. He definitely changed my life in that moment. And I did too by saying yes. My ex-husband did not want to go. He had no desire to leave. And I told him, well, then what we got married for is for nothing if you do not come. And he ended up leaving, we got a divorce. And when I became a health coach, we were just on separate paths, and I got a divorce and met my husband now, who's my soulmate, and I am very, very firm. He's just a very steadfast person in my life, and I could never ask for anything better. So
Mm.
it's amazing how it all works.
Yeah, you walked on your path.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the most beautiful thing. You didn't try to take anyone else's path or anything like that. You stayed true to who you are, because even in that moment, right, you could have said no.
Yeah.
And that would have been, a path with that ex-partner, and it would have been like a different direction. But yeah, something that I always like to say is that, yes, there are certain things that our soul is predestined to
Mm,
experience in this lifetime, but there are also many moments in this human experience where we also have the power of free will, and we can choose at big junctions certain
mm-hmm.
directions. And so this is what you did in that very moment, and it's really beautiful to listen to that. So Lacy, I would like to ask you if you were to share a message with everybody who's watching our video now, anything that just comes to you. It can be a quote, a message that you just have within you right now,
Mm.
or just lyrics, anything, songs, anything that you want to share with us.
Yeah, that seasons change, seasons change, and nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. Whatever you're going through, you'll grow through it. You can either go through it or you can grow through it. Choose to grow through it and choose to get through the season. And this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And just find the people that love you. If you have people that are struggling in your life, give them grace. Give them grace because seasons change and people change, and it is possible that you can have a better life if you're struggling. No matter what you're struggling with, it is possible. You just have to choose to get through it.
Thank you so much for that. I'm really grateful for your presence here, and to everyone who's watching us. You will find all the links on how to connect with Lacy and myself in the description of this video. Thank you for watching us, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.